Capri Ron. Terrance Howard just announced that the emperor has no clothes. I was already seeing it. Climate science was already looking a bit shaky. The medical science, looking like it's more political than scientific. And the physical science, Terrance Howard just demolished on the PBD podcast. And everything he said, it just seems so common sense as you're going through school and you're learning all this trash, and you're like, wait a second, that doesn't that doesn't sound right. Well, Terrence Howard said, yeah, the math isn't mathing, right? And then the PBD podcast also invited a NASA aerospace engineer or a rocket scientist, deep within physics. Okay, he's got a background in physics. Anyway, so because Terrence Howard, everything he's saying sounds so good, right? But we're like, is it true? Maybe it just all sounds good. But yeah, the NASA scientists pretty much agreed with everything that Terrence Howard said. If you need someone to agree with him, I really don't. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that Terrence Howard automated future. I'm holding water for that. I'm holding that vibration. And I do want to talk more about the podcast and the interview and everything that was said. I don't want to analyze it for you, though. I don't want to spoon feed it to you. It's very important to go to the source and imbibe the change that you want to see. All right, so I am going to talk about it more. But first, I want to talk about the spirituality of change, how to use spirituality to create the change that you want to see. All right. Like I said, it's very important to go to the source of what you want. It's very important to move in that different direction. And I think it can be even helpful to gather around others in that direction, not just moving by yourself, but we're all connected, and even moving by yourself is still opening up new worlds and possibilities. Okay, not that's beyond your own world and your own self. Okay. So you got to hold on to these vibrations. And that's why I think protests can be so powerful. Because it's like, if you think about it, like what's really going on? Sometimes there's nothing happening in the physical world. They're not signing petitions, they're not exchanging numbers, they're not networking. They're just marching and they're walking along. What's going on there? It looks like, from the outside, it looks like a whole lot of nothing. From the physical realm, it looks like a whole lot of nothing. But what's going on is they're holding on to a frequency and they're doing it all together. Okay? They're on a mission and they're going to walk it out for, a few hours or whatnot. And they're all on the same page. And that's beautiful and strong, strengthening, right? And it doesn't just go away. I mean, they're only going to do it for a few hours, right? It doesn't just go away. And it does capture, sure, it captures the imagination and it captures the attention of other people. But also, what's happening is there's a spirits and energy over these frequencies, and they're being strengthened and unleashed. Okay? They're being added to the world, to the lexicon, to the matrix, if you will. They're being added. So yeah, and in that respect, go see the podcast, but also make space for change. I think one of the most important things is to pull the children out of school, even if you don't know how to homeschool. Get them out of there. Figure it out later. That would be so powerful. There's not much time before summer starts. That would be so powerful if people just pulled their children from school. They're not learning anything anyway. I mean, they are learning English and how to write, not physically writing, not anymore. They're learning English and how to write a paper, research, stuff like that. Sure, but at the cost of more dynamism, at the cost of being able to change their future, change the future, be the future. Okay. And what are they teaching them in school besides history and history? What is the perspective of the barbarians, right? Beat them up, take what you can, oppress. That's the way it had to be. Otherwise, we wouldn't have what we have today. That's what they're learning in school. Still. During COVID, we had a laptop. My son was in kindergarten, and I was just like, oh, no, here it comes. And they told my kindergartner, my 5-year-old, about Martin Luther King getting assassinated. What's a 5-year-old supposed to do with that? That's not real knowledge. I went to school all over the country. Never did we really talk about civil rights after that. But anyway, that's just one part. They're not learning how to write. They're not learning how to do math. And it's not that they have a new math. They're not learning how to do math. They're not memorizing the multiplication table. Are they memorizing anything? I don't know, maybe. Memorization is very important. But they're not writing. They're not learning musical instruments. They're not learning a second language. They're not learning finance. They're not learning home ec, right? They're not learning how to start a business. They're not learning any kind of trade or being evaluated. Like, what are your strengths and skills? I remember there was like some paltry test, but there was no investment into that paltry test. It's like, okay, that's what you learn. Next thing, back to normal curriculum. There's no investment into what each child is. And when your children are going to school, unfortunately, they're at risk because what is school? But they're not teaching them how to eat, nutrition. So they're filling them full of trash, right? They're introducing them to peer pressure. Bring your own lunch, see what happens in the United hates is what I call it. Bring your own lunch, see what happens. See how that makes you feel. See how everyone makes you feel. Okay, so the bullying, online, offline, making children commit suicide, the violence, and the teenage pregnancy. That is a huge problem in the United States. Teenage pregnancy, because everything's so sexualized. So if you pull your children from school, even if it's just this year, what are they going to miss? What are they going to miss? And let's get into what Terrance Howard says should not even be a part of physics anymore. He tore it down, down. And they never update. They never update the school system. I hold on to the frequency of change. I do not mind them to destroy what's left. I want change, and I don't care how it happens. People are too caught up in how the change is going to happen. I want change, but not like that. I want that, but not through this avenue. Come on, stop. Anyway, Terrance Howard. These are the things he broke down, he demolished, he said, is trash. There's four fundamental forces in physics. Three of them are trash. So there's a strong force, the weak force, and gravity. You can trash them. There's no evidence. There's no evidence to support it. And a lot of it's just ridiculous. Okay. Newton, what he said, the untraveled man, Isaac Newton, what he said was gravity is this. It's this and it's a constant. And that's just not true. All right. And we've seen that. We've seen that. Watch the podcast. I'm not going to give you all the analysis. I'm not going to give you all the details. Okay. Electromagnetism, right? That's a fundamental force of physics. That's in. That's good. Right? Antimatter. That's trash. Dark matter and dark energy. Trash. That goes right along with the strong and weak forces. The electron model, garbage. And especially the part where the electron jumps from shell to shell, called quantum jumping. No, no, it's just silly. Let's see. He says yes to anti-gravity. Said yes, there would be a such thing if you knew that gravity was a byproduct of electromagnetism. Okay, which the NASA rocket scientist agrees that there is a such thing as anti-gravity, and it's something we have yet not tapped into. Terrance Howard disagrees that there is a such thing as well, does he? The rocket scientist agrees, or he says that there's no such thing as an electron, that it's all waves. So, Terrance Howard says, yes, we can make anti-gravity, and yes, we can make free energy, and he published it somewhere online, probably on his website, right? So with what he's presenting, you have to realize, and he even said, I forgot, he said that we can tune and change matter itself, alchemize matter and change things, which totally reminded me of the Iranian scientists that came out like in 2009 or 2012, so many years ago. We are so far behind. You have to realize we are so far behind where science could take us. And Terrance Howard said that is intentional, because in being behind, all their systems can continue. And with that friction, that's where the money comes from. He didn't say exactly that, but the friction in there's so much established behind, so much political prowess, force, supremacy behind making this country produce the coltan we need for this and that, and these systems that aren't efficient, and McDonald's having freaking plasma TVs as menus. There's so much behind that friction, that waste. It's an organizing force, and we need to be organized, not free, organized. So there's a lot of money to be made where there's waste. Okay, the government will pay for it all anyway. Speaking of Mars Project, right? So if you think about just the anti-gravity and the free energy, what Terrance Howard is saying, that you can put, things in orbit with no fuel at all. So not only is he saying, hold on. Okay, so you can put things in orbit with no fuel at all. Okay, you can pull energy from the ether, and you can disengage the gravity, right? Think about that technology that we're not even trying to tap into or don't understand versus Elon Musk's Starlink in the low Earth orbit. It has lost 1,000 satellites already, and it's very dangerous. The satellites are vaporizing, and they're made mostly of aluminum is the primary problem. The aluminum is going to degrade the ozone layer. 1,000 satellites in low Earth orbit, also creating a lot of static electricity or electricity. It's going to actually do a lot of the things they said was climate change. It's going to change the weather. It's going to destroy the ozone. That's going to let more of the sun's energy in. That's going to produce more weather. But it's also going to charge the lithosphere crust of the Earth. And that is going to even produce more earthquakes, which I follow geophysicist Stefan Burns. So yeah, I've been following how many more earthquakes there have been. They're all higher magnitude earthquakes, and the higher magnitude earthquakes are increasing in frequency. Now that maybe just because the sun is at solar maximum, but also we're starting to destroy the ozone layer, and also the darn satellites may be why it may be destroying the ozone layer, allowing more energy in, but it also may be charging the Earth, and that's maybe why we're seeing the northern lights farther south. Okay, because they're changing the nature of Earth with this stuff that they're doing. Frivolous stuff. Don't know what they're doing. Anyway, we wouldn't need satellites swarming and buzzing all over the Earth. And we would actually prefer geostationary satellites that could stay in orbit. How about that? Ooh, let's stay in orbit instead of having to have a certain speed to stay in orbit. Speaking of, so yeah, the most watched spot is like of the PBD podcast was the part about the pyramids, but what about the part about the Black Knight satellite? I really think it is what it looks like, a rock. But yeah, everyone go look that up. How did it get there? Why is it transmitting? Is it sucking energy from the ether, like everything that Terrance Howard is saying? Anyway, there's a lot of mysteries in this world, and mostly because it's mostly a mystery because we don't have the basis of understanding. But we could get the basis of understanding. Let's all take our children out of school until something amazing happens. That would be great if you could just do that. Anyway, so I also wanted to make a note of what Terrance Howard says, that the fundamental forces of physics should be electromagnetism, motion, and harmonic frequency. And yeah, harmonic frequency is huge. And I even learned about that as a part of my Air Force training, right? But I didn't learn enough to really understand it. I learned enough to do my job, perhaps, or maybe they really thought, they were teaching us something, but they only teach us just enough, right? And like I said, what is physics is full of holes and trash and theories built upon theories when it didn't work fundamentally. but you add all this other stuff to make it seem like it works. But it doesn't. It doesn't add up. So we got to change our mind about who the emperor is. All right. Because all their stuff has no substance, and we can do better on our own. This is Black Shiva wishing you peace and health. Everyone, hold on to the frequency of change. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.